Okay, John Fibonacci, listen to this bird in the background. Well, you'll hear it. It sounds exactly like RTD2, Star Wars, or CP30. Listen to this song. I mean, I am John Fibonacci out here in beautiful Durango, Colorado, which, there's some beautiful, my favorite places are San Francisco and the Four Corners area. And, I don't know how long you've been traveling or how long you've been following this channel, but this channel really just started as an experiment. John Fibonacci did some day trading Fibonacci stuff and said, you know what, Jonathan's my name. I'm going to go by Jonathan Fibonacci, and I'm going to do a little road trip, take a sort of an adult gap year, and between, there is a thing between a gap year. It wasn't really that popular when I was in college, but this is sort of what I would say if I were given a TED Talk. These are just some things that I've learned today, or some things I'll share today from this journey for this last year and a half. I was, again, I don't know where you've picked up on this channel, but I ran a finance company for 10 years, and I was just that typical Austin, Texas workaholic finance guy. And my company had achieved some success, and I was, again, that cliche, keep it weird, Austin, Texas guy. And there is a thing, Austin, Texas people, even though okay, that's, I guess I'm going to call that Permian Basin right there. Right there. That's the dog, Permian Basin. All right, Permian Basin, going to help me narrate this story. Okay, what? Okay, get back to CP3, what, the cliche, what's the story? I guess this is my director. So one thing I want to do is I want to kind of introduce myself and say this is today's TED Talk with John Fibonacci, and kind of who I am and how this channel came to be and the things that I've learned, and really just allowing yourself a season or some time to take a pause. And sometimes that's a year and a half, and chicks do it all the time. It's called Eat, Love, Pray, where they just take a season. And this is a season that I sort of was forced upon me. I ran a finance company, so Dodd-Frank really ate up a lot of smaller mortgage companies, and mine was one of them. And I used to boast, I used to say, idiot things like, I'm the last mom and pop mortgage company standing. I used to boast about that, and it's true. I was the last, one of the last non-corporate, non-bank owned mortgage companies, and I did financing, home financing, all over Texas. And I grew from Austin, Texas to Houston and Dallas, and life was good. Dodd-Frank hit. I was a little arrogant with that. I thought I could keep up with regulatory stuff, and I did for about 3 or 4 years. And on the 4th year, the Dodd-Frank legislation really hit my company hard, where I had to then have liquidity requirements, which, to most people, that's not a big deal. But, just think of if you were an orthopedic surgeon and you had to have $1 million liquid to keep your medical license or your dental license. Well, guess what happened to me? John Fibonacci, I went out of business. So here I am, 10-year-old finance company. I was a dad, am a dad. I kind of went through a custody dispute, kind of Alex Jones meets Muleshoe, meets Austin, meets Fibonacci, meets Hala. So having those two events, the loss of a business as well as the loss of my family with a civil trial and going through all that shit, ultimately that led to homelessness. And I really started to understand what homelessness looks like in this country, not from a San Francisco Chronicle, not from a New York Times perspective, but from a real life perspective of, here I'm making over $200,000 a year, unable to work because of licensure things, credit is racked. So therefore, even just basic jobs that require, a credit background, those are jobs you're not getting. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is a story of homelessness that nobody really is telling. And it is about men and ultimately what's happening to men in this culture, and how Hillary Clinton's narrative is so important when she talks about the future is female, and what that really looks like from a civil court perspective to a criminal court perspective. For most people, they don't care about homelessness. They don't care about Jonathan Minogue. In fact, the latest TMZ will probably get more views in this channel. Jonathan Minogue speaking from the trenches of journalism, let's really look at some of these mammoth pieces of legislations like Dodd-Frank. Let's really look at that. Who's really having an intelligent discussion on what's happening systemically to this country, in this country, because of one piece of legislation called Dodd-Frank? I mean, who's really able to have that conversation except Jonathan Minogue, who's literally been driven into homelessness as a result of that. So what is homelessness? Let's talk about it. This is my TED Talk. In fact, I'm going to title this video Jonathan Minogue TED Talk, May 20, 2017, Gravity, Royce Hall. Well, you're like, what the fuck? He's talking about gravity and Star Wars. Well, I started with CP320 or whatever the fuck his name is. Gravity, the TED Talk there, I'm going to promote that venue because I think what TED Talk is doing is a really intelligent, needed piece of art form, and that's these TED Talks and how these TED Talks are some of the best things online. And there's a lot of shit online, but there's a lot that's really good. And TED Talk, the TED Talks are some of my favorite. And on May 20th, 2017 at UCLA, they're speaking about gravity. Well, I'm speaking about Jonathan Minogue and what gravity really looks like for men, and really to have some intelligent discussions, and really, I guess, to re-invite you back to this channel and say, the things that I used to really have convictions for are now, I guess, crusades. Like, for example, I truly used to believe in the importance of the Fourth Amendment and the 10th Amendment. Now I believe that the Fourth Amendment or the Ed Snowden Amendment is critically important, the 10th Amendment. So I know I'm shifting gears a lot. I'm talking about Fourth Amendment, homelessness, and Dodd-Frank, and Jonathan Minogue, and of course, eventually I'm going to do some travel photography, and we're going to go climb those mountains together. We're going to promote local businesses, and we're going to take all the things that I've learned from this journey and share them, and then to kind of be the Abraham Zapruder of something. Like Abraham Zapruder was just a guy with a camera, and he was at the right time, at the right place, at the right time, at the right grassy knoll. And where would this country be without a guy named Abraham Zapruder? And the importance of the individual voice, the individual lens, and hopefully a call back to journalism, real legit journalism, where we have real important discussions about real important matters that affect a lot of people. And Republican, Democrat, Dodd-Frank is a piece of shit, and it will impact your monthly mortgage payment, whether you like it or not. And we'll talk about spiritual things. I mean, I'm always going to the mountains to pray, to use a biblical model. And again, I could talk many an hour on the importance of just going old school, going back to biblical text and biblical stories in Matthew 4, and how just Matthew 4 alone is vitally important to the church. The Matthew 4 model, and just let's go back to the stories of Jesus, where he's asking real Ferguson-like questions, like, who is my brother? Who is my brother? And that was the pinnacle of Jesus the Christ ministry. He was asking questions like, who is my brother? And all Jesus did is he gave people, like, for example, he gave women their dignity back. He healed, he taught, he fed people, and he asked questions like, who is my brother? And those are questions that we're going to hopefully ask, and we're going to answer. And I say we because I hope you go on this journey with me. All right, I got to wrap it up. Permian there. So got to keep these videos short. TED Talks need to be brief. People have Facebook to check, Insta. In fact, you can go watch one of my videos where I talk about how noisy the internet is, and all the data that goes online each 60 seconds, and it's amazing how many dollars are spent online. So I know there's a noisy world out there, and I know this, for some people, doesn't have all the production value of a TED Talk. But the things I'm talking about are important because, like as Ernest Hemingway said, he left us some beautiful words, Ernest Hemingway. And he said, for whom the bell tolls, for whom the bell tolls. So you may not care about Ferguson, but your children will eventually find their way with a Ferguson-like spirit if we don't talk about things like police corruption. You may not care about homelessness or Dodd-Frank, but your children will have to deal with and live in that banking environment. You may not care about Matthew 4 or Jonathan Fibonacci or Jesus the Christ, but I assure you there will be a day of accounting where Matthew 4 will be the prayer that you and I wish we would have prayed in more earnest. For whom the bell tolls, John Fibonacci, working on my intro, my TED Talk. How'd I do, Permian? A little too dramatic at the end? I didn't go to Revelations. That's good. Okay, wrap it up. You guys be good. Email your thoughts, questions, americana417@gmail.com. See, I so like the Star Wars. Surely okay, Star Wars, long live David Prowse. Google David Prowse. Thank you.